Alright everyone, Cody here, and welcome back to ChickenHole Base. So today we're starting over at this little hill where I am planting some cactuses. Now you might remember these from a few episodes back. We took some cactus cuttings, put them into pots, and got them to grow. And as you can see, they've already made roots, and it's time to plant them. This particular one, a rat or something, ate off the original leaf, but some new growth is coming up, so I think it'll do just fine. I'll just put some dirt around it, just like so. And give it some water. Very simple. These cactuses are very hardy. They don't require much. These are the starvation pear cactuses. They are edible. They're not very good, but if you're starving, they're great. I've also got a few other kinds of cactuses that I'm planting. A little barrel cactus here. There's a torch cactus over here. These aren't quite as cold hardy as the starvation pear are, but I figure with climate change, we'll be right at home. So I think this little hill is going to be looking quite nice, covered in cactuses. The soil here isn't the best, so I think that's a good use for it. You can see, I got loads of them. This one actually is flowering. See, it's a nice purplish pink flower. This one I planted a couple of years earlier. They're doing well. If you come over here, you can see the bees are currently missing. That is because they've been moved to their summer home, where they've got lots of water and flowers. They should be quite happy there, and will be coming back later in the season. You can see over there, Cody has a fancy new electric lawnmower attachment, which he's currently using to collect some green material with lots of carbon to use in a new batch of compost. The first batch finally finished and is currently sitting in buckets waiting to go into the greenhouse. Figure we may as well use this material since we have it anyway. This ought to make some pretty good dirt. Yeah. Let's close that up for now. Come over here. I think the chickens are going to bed for the day. You can see them here. There's a couple of new ones. They're actually old chickens, but they've come to live with us. Here's Mr. Mully. Hey boy, how you doing? He hurt his antenna, so we've had to give him a temporary reflector dish here for communications, but he seems to be doing all right, and this will be healed up pretty soon. Well, anyway, since the chickens are home, let's lock them in. This is not to keep them in, but to keep other things out, mostly. Keep the coyotes from eating them. Although, this time of year, there's a lot of crickets, so the coyotes aren't particularly hungry. Yeah, this lawnmower here should be quite nice. Not have to deal with gas and oil and all that. And I can power it off of my solar panels. You can see those solar panels are deployed, although we're currently running it with the power wagon supplementing the power of the hab. If you come over here, you get a nice view of the almost sunset. This habitat, there's a problem with it. So this right here, this plastic is back pretty far. See, it's almost touching this board here. A few months ago when it was cold, this was over here. It's because the plastic expands and contracts with the heat. And it does it by a lot. Like, all things expand and contract with heat, but it seems the thermal expansion coefficient of the plastic is much higher than the wood and steel. So it moves. There's really no way to stop it from doing that. Like, the amount of force that'll put on things is immense. You can hear this cable is very tight. It'll actually stretch the cable. And right now it's okay because the structure is able to, slide back and forth. But when I put weight in there, when I put all this dirt we got piled up here, when it's inside the hab, it's going to put weight on it. And that weight is going to increase friction and lock the hab in place so it can't move. So here's the problem. This tank is going to be full of water. It weighs over a ton. It's not going to move. The green hab is expanding thermally. It's going to move whatever I do. And if it can't slide here, if there's too much friction, then essentially it's going to put a lot of stress on this joint and cause it to flex. Now it's plastic, it can flex, but if it flexes too much or too often, it's going to be flexing every day, back and forth. It's going to cause this seal to break. And in fact, you can see right there, some water had leaked out last time we had the green hab full of dirt. And I think the reason is this seal broke, and the reason it broke, thermal expansion. So to solve this issue, we need to put this on rollers to decrease the friction. So I've started by cutting the wood here, give a little bit of space. I've emptied this tank, it no longer has water in it. We're going to lift it up, going to put some concrete or something under it so it doesn't go back down, and then get a bunch of pieces of pipe and put under here so that it can roll. So it should be a fairly simple fix. Ultimately though, for any future green hab that I build, we're going to avoid this problem entirely by not having the lower sump like this. So, it's the next day. Cody has cut a bunch of pieces of pipe for me. This is what we'll be using as rollers. You can see this. I'm going to put these between the green hab and its structure, and they will decrease the friction by converting sliding into rolling. And most of them will probably just roll a little bit like this, but that's the idea. So, I've begun lifting the green hab. Just using these scissor jacks here. Just lifting it a little bit on each side, starting with the front. Now that it's lifted up, I'm starting to install the rollers. For now, I'm just kind of setting them in here. So I've set the hab back down. You can see the first set of them are in place. But now you might be asking, what's going to hold them there? They're going to work loose over time, right? Well, I have a plan for this. What I'm going to do is drill a hole under each one, like that. And then I'm going to install a staple. Got a hammer here. And the staple will just hold it in place so it doesn't go too far. It can still move, but it's not going to fall out. So there we are, the first batch of them are now in and secured. The ones up near the very front, I can't get the drill or hammer in there. So I think what I might do is just cut some wood or something and just add a spacer. It doesn't really need to roll there anyway, because the movement up in the front of the tank is going to be the least. And I actually might want the friction there. Anyway, I'll just continue down, lifting the tank up and installing rollers as I go. It's going to take a while. Hopefully it's worth it. So, I thought I'd give you guys an update. I've got the wood installed up front, and the rollers going along the side, and most of the middle here. You can see in this area right here, the foundation was kind of a little bit wonky. As you can see, it's twisted a little bit, so there was a bigger gap between here and the tanks. So to get the rollers to fit up close to the tank, I had to install this piece of metal as like a spacer. That's probably better anyway, because the rolling friction metal to metal is going to be less than metal to wood. You got a bug? So I've also got this piece of metal here. It's a L bracket that goes along the top of the rollers. That'll reduce the friction, but it also holds them in place and helps keep the weather out. Ultimately, I'm going to run a bead of silicone along the top of this, which will help hold it in place and keep the water from seeping through. And I might also screw a piece of flashing like over this, just so any water can go down and drain off. And that'll also help insulate it, instead of having a big gap there where air can come out. Yeah, that bug is smart, staying away from the chickens. So another update is I've stopped using these jacks. I find that just using a lever to lift the tank is just as well, if not better. See, I can lift it more focused, and I think it's safer doing it that way anyway. So there we are. I've got all of the center and the west side done. But now that I've got everything figured out, I think I'll just have RoboCody do this side over here on the east. And while RoboCody's doing that, I'm going to come over here and show you the result of the snow that was shoveled into these tanks. So if we look in this one that just had the snow, yeah, it's all melted now. It's not exactly clean water. I wouldn't want to drink it, but you could probably use that to water plants just fine. So here it is from the other side. So these are 5,000 gallon tanks, and I'd say it's a bit less than 1,000 gallons. All collected from shoveling snow. And I come over here to the one that had salt. It was melted before, but is definitely melted now, and is actually growing algae. More algae than the fresh snow water is growing. My guess is that it has more nutrients. It's definitely attractive to the crickets. Unfortunately, I have to filter those out. Anyway, let's head up to the chicken hole. I'll show you a couple of things up there. So first is this black plastic tubing, which you might have seen in the intro clip. It goes all the way up to the top of the hill, and it's just open up there. The idea for this is it was an experiment to see if the sunlight heating the tube would heat the air inside, making it less dense, and that would cause it to, flow up the mountain. The idea being that it would create a little bit of suction, and maybe I could transport water vapor and stuff up the hillside. It doesn't appear to be working though. Like, I'm not detecting any amount of suction even when it's got full sun. And like, I've hiked along this multiple times, making sure there's no kinks or sharp turns, and it appears to be completely open. Like, I can blow through it. Everything's fine. My only guess is that the diameter is too small and it's got friction that keeps the air from flowing on its own. But if you got any ideas, I'd love to hear it. And that brings us up to the chicken hole itself. So you might remember last time, maybe the time before, I put a little ceramic bowl with an egg in here, kind of as an offering. But I noticed this last winter that the egg and bowl disappeared. And I figured maybe something had knocked it out into the snow. But now that the snow is melted, I'm not seeing it. Like, I've looked all around here, I've looked in the bushes, it's not here. There's a few possibilities. First is maybe a rat or something took a liking to it and decided to carry it away. Pack rats have been known to take things. I've also seen people up here on my cameras, but I'd like to think that somebody didn't take it. I guess it's always a possibility, being as public as I am. But I suppose maybe it is just maybe the offering was accepted. Maybe it got taken into the chicken land or whatever. That'd be kind of cool. I'm gonna go with that. Until proven otherwise, I'm just gonna assume that the offer was accepted. So RoboCody just informed me he ran into a problem with this. First, let me scratch the cat. Hey boy. So the problem is this metal, which I have here, can't be here. I can't attach it to the tanks because it does not have the same coefficient of thermal expansion. You can already see it's starting to like buckle and pop off. So we can't have it. It was a good idea, except that it wasn't. So this is Cody's solution. Just pull the plastic up over the rollers. Use that to cover them. I do like this. It keeps most of the weather out. Puts a little bit of back pressure to keep them in the right place. I don't like how it kind of bends down and rubs on them in some places, but I think this might be manageable. Maybe if we trim a little bit off or something. Might go with that. But for now, I think we're gonna leave it there. I'll head back into the hab. Okay, let's close that. You ready to go in? Yeah, you are. So we're back in the hab. A few things that have changed. First of all, I've got the water on. It's very nice. The fridge has also been turned on. As you can see, very frosty. You like this spot because, speaking of cooling, got a little evaporative cooler here. And you stay cool. Huh. Yeah, you like that, huh? So yeah. Oh, feels nice. Well, that's going to be the end of the episode. It's going to be one with not a lot of progress, but I am trying to produce more videos, so less progress but more videos. Makes sense? And once again, I'd like to thank the Patreons that make all this possible, because as of recording this, Google still hasn't paid me. I still haven't got that worked out. I think I'm close, but as of right now, I haven't gotten anything from YouTube in the last 3.5 years. Just kind of crazy to think about. But fortunately, I've been able to, thanks to the generosity of viewers like you.